Welcome into Stacking Dubs. I'm your host, Chris Chinn. One game is in the books for the Warriors, and all is fantastic. Take care of business against the Blazers on the road, winning by 35 points, a franchise record for opening night. And there's a lot to like in this one. It's going to be a fun season. Warriors just an exciting, fun, up-tempo team to watch. Yes, there's going to be ups and downs, especially with the three-point variance. But for basically the last three quarters in this one, just looked as dominant and just as cohesive as a unit as it gets, especially in the NBA these days. Love what we're seeing by Steve Kerr's boys. Buddy Hield, player of the game, came off the bench as the sixth man, essentially filling what the Warriors had hoped Klay Thompson could have been in that sixth man role. I think the difference here is that Buddy is truly embracing it, doesn't seem to be too concerned about his minutes, knows his role is just going to be to come in, get up shots, and man, he can get them up with the best of them. Quick release, always on balance, always wet. Obviously, there's going to be, his cold spells. He can be as streaky as anybody, but I like the fact that he was able to attack the hoop, still find ways to finish, including with the left hand. Gives you just kind of a different look. It's the spacing, especially when he's on the floor with Steph Curry, that unit did very well together. 22 points and I believe only 15 minutes. I think we're gonna see kind of where his minutes settle in, especially if he's coming off the bench in this role. Who knows? He might even end up in that starting lineup at some point. But I think we're going to see him kind of in that 20 to sometimes maybe 26, 27 minutes in a game if he really has it going and we need that spacing. And if those are the minutes he's getting, I don't see why he wouldn't be getting upwards of, 13, 14, maybe even 15 points per game. And that's exactly what the Warriors need on a team that is just starved for scores. Never really going to have a true number two option that's going to be scoring upwards of 20 points a game this season. I don't really see it, save for maybe Kuminga turning the corner, but this was not a good start to that for him. So we're going to need, this collection of number three scorers, we'll call them, and Buddy Hield, and then also Andrew Wiggins. Very, very impressive tonight. Not the best start, just like the Warriors, but shot it well. I think he was 4 of 7 from three, finished with 20 points. I don't care about his shooting. I know his shooting will be there. He's proven that he's a high 30 percentile in the 38, 39% range from three, large enough sample size. I like that he was aggressive shooting it, but I like that he was aggressive attacking the hoop, putting the ball on the deck, making plays for others, had a couple good passes off the bounce, found ways to get to the hoop, found ways to finish, and found ways to get to the line. In this one, yes, there's going to be a ton of three-point variance that we're going to see this whole entire season. That's just the nature of a team that is going to shoot upwards of 40 to 45 three-pointers a game. There's going to be down spells where you're going to be missing a handful in a row. And that's what happened to the Warriors. I think they missed their first 7 threes. Steph Curry didn't have it going. But what kept the Warriors in the game when their offense wasn't clicking was getting to the line. I think their first 5 points were all on free throws, and then really just digging in on defense. The silver lining, or not even the underdog here, that was the best part of the night was the defense. And I know we're playing the Portland Trail Blazers. Everybody's defense is going to look good against them. But it really seemed to be a very high pressure, high effort defense. You didn't really see too many missed rotations. The point of attack was good. The rim protection was great. That's part of the reason why I think Steve Kerr wants to start TJD and Draymond together in that front court, because what it lacks in spacing on offense, being able to protect that hoop, making other teams work for buckets. We had to point to anything last year in terms of being our Achilles heel. It's just not being able to A, stay in front of players and on defense, and then B, on the back end, protecting the hoop. And that's why everyone was collapsing in the lane, over helping just to try to deter an easy layup, and just open three after open three was surrendered. So didn't see any over helping today for the most part. Saw great transition defense, which has just been one of the most biggest points of emphasis for Steve Kerr in this preseason is, can you get back on D? Can you make life a little bit difficult for teams, even in a 2-on-1, 3-on-2 situation? We're not giving up an easy dunk. We're not giving up an easy three. We'll live with anything in between. And the Warriors won up that. They got their hands on balls and and had a lot of deflections in transition, had a few steals in transition, just had a ton of stops in transition. It's probably not going to be quite that good on defense, but I was very, very happy to see that. And that's what kept them in the game when the three-pointer wasn't falling. And the Warriors are going to need to hang their hat on that. They have a lot of depth on this team, and so the effort must be there. I mean, tip of the hat to Steve Kerr for leaning into how this roster is constructed. You have 12, I mean, you really have 13, 14 guys that can be NBA rotation players. And he said it. He, on Tuesday, was going to go with the 10-man rotation. And he just, like, it's just, we're going to go at 12. We have too many people that deserve minutes. We're going to lean into our depth, and we're just going to play up tempo. Everyone's minutes are going to be a little bit less because of that. But when you have that many players, you're gonna find new combinations that work. From game to game, you're gonna find guys that just have it going. Guys like like a Moses Moody, who was 11th man off the bench in this, but you see him getting it going by the end of the game. Sometimes you just got to play the guys that are hot, and this allows them to do that a bunch. So I really like just the way Kerr approached this, and he basically said, "I'm not stuck in my ways of just playing 10 players." He said it so many times, there's just not enough minutes. I'm not going to be able to play everybody. Well, he did, and it worked out last night. And the reason it works is, aside from the defensive intensity, this team works because they're connected. They're connected as enough ball handlers, enough movement shooters. Everyone's committed to ball movement, kind of cutting around the perimeter. For all the threes you take, not much was pull-ups or standstill threes. They were open because people are cutting, they're moving. And although we can't get to the hoop very well, we're still finding really good open shots. Again, this is all taken with a grain of salt because you're playing Portland. So it remains to be seen how until we're tested against better defensive and offensive teams. But I did like the style of play. It seems very apparent that this team is bought in to what Steve Kerr wants to do. It's just the new look Warriors. We're going to move. We're going to play up tempo. We're going to shoot threes. And we're going to play really tenacious defense with a lot of bodies. 38 assists in this one on 23s. That's not a Warriors glory days, golden era line right there. I don't know what is. And to the strength of being able to play essentially strength in numbers is these back-to-backs, games with, you have a very tough game one night and then you have to bounce back the next night or two nights later even. We're going to be much better because of the depth we have. It's going to reduce the wear and tear, especially on Steph Curry and Draymond Green. Nights like this where nobody has to play over 25 minutes. Perfect way to ease into the season, kind of get your legs under you, get some confidence, and we're flying high heading into Utah on Friday. Well, I must say, I was surprised by the starting lineup, although I think I kind of knew it was going to head that direction because of just the last two preseason games where Wiggins was starting at the 2, TJD was starting. It seemed apparent that Steve Kerr was going to at least give this lineup a try and see it through to see if we can work past what is the most glaring obvious issue is the lack of spacing on offense, starting Kuminga, Draymond, and TJD in that front court. Trying to see what kind of solutions we can find to that. In the first 6 minutes of the game, there were none. You saw what they were trying to do, especially with the Wiggins trying to attack the hoop, which is going to be what needs to happen. There's not enough ball handlers in that lineup. You're really asking Steph to do a whole bunch there. You're asking Draymond, who can play, a good point forward, but without enough shooting and without the space for Kuminga to truly be unlocked, you're really asking a lot out of Steph Curry to carry this offense. And when his three-pointer isn't falling straight out the gate, you see what happens to this lineup. Kuminga, we can evaluate all we want on Kuminga, but I think what we would all agree on is that what he does best is attack the hoop. This lineup is just not conducive to that. When you have two bigs on the floor, and non-shooters specifically, the defense is just compacted in there. There's no room for Kuminga to attack. Tried a couple back cuts, we tried to find him on a couple attacks to the rim, and it was just clogged. The ball got deflected. We had a couple of turnovers on it. Kuminga not effective in this one, especially with that starting unit. And that goes for Steph Curry too, right? When there's no room to operate, obviously he can shoot from the outside, but now you're making him kind of a one-dimensional scorer. Steph's at his best when he can attack the hoop, have space to finish, and then that also opens up space for him beyond the three-point arc. Second half, this unit a little bit better. Still a little shaky, and while the defense from this unit is good, and that's going to be its strength, that and its length and athleticism, you saw that there were kind of uh outlets to scoring with this lineup, and a lot of it started with pick and roll with TJD. When Trace is coming out from the post, setting a screen on ball. One time, we got a Kuminga dunk out of it. TJD comes up, you get some penetration. Whoever, I think either Steph or Draymond had it, kicked it to Wiggins, and then cut along the baseline. Kuminga in that dunker spot works well. That's how you can get Kuminga some space. TJD, again, in pick and roll, he can roll and become vertically and be a vertical spacer. That also works. You don't have to have just all floor space. It can be vertical space as well. So those are a couple kind of escape valves so I get this lineup going. But ultimately, the most success this lineup had was just getting to the line and attacking. They're gonna have to find ways around it. But I do think that we're gonna have to give this lineup a little bit of runway. It is probably our four best players in Curry, Kuminga, Wiggins, Draymond together. It's just not enough connectors. So we'll see what they can figure out. I think eventually what's going to happen is if you do want to prioritize TJD in that starting lineup just to keep Draymond out from playing a ton of center minutes, then Kuminga is going to have to slide to the bench. And then you can bring in another connector. That could be Melton, that could be Pajemski. But that lineup works. That lineup's better. It makes more sense. It has more shooting. It has ball handling. It has great defense. That is probably going to be a closing lineup unless we go small. But then what does it do to Kuminga, his confidence? He's in a contract year. Can you put Kuminga on the bench and basically reduce any potential trade value you can also get out of him? That's why I think Steve Kerr said, hey, you know what? My hands are tied for now. I need to basically prove it, to ourselves that this lineup isn't an option, and prove it to John the Kuminga that, hey, like, it doesn't really work if you're at a 3. But let's give you a couple games to figure it out. I'd say no more than 10 games with this lineup. But if all things are going well, you start figuring some stuff out, I'm down to keep exploring it. But I thought the bench saved us in this one, and just kind of basically everyone but Kuminga played extremely well. Even your Brandon Pajemski's, with 0 points, but a plus 34. Give me that all day over Kuminga and what he did with this lineup. Last little note, gosh, Kuminga just still these stupid fouls. They're reaching, it's just out of position. It's just like lack of attention to details. Those little fouls, they need to go. And it's small, but it just shows that he is still very raw and has a lot of learning to do. Okay, well, let's look a little bit more at this lineup of we'll call the big starting lineup. And what I do like about it, the aggressiveness attacking, if this lineup's going to work, you have to be aggressive attacking. So I liked that was the mindset going in. And I did like the fact that Draymond at the 4 really unlocks him to guard guys like a Jeremy Grant. Like when the other team, small forward or power forward are the best players, best scorers. Now you have the freedom to let Draymond play on these guys, make life tough for them. And then you have TJD behind him. I swear, if Draymond Green had an elite center protecting the rim behind him, Draymond Green would be Defensive Player of the Year because he is truly at his best on that side of the ball when he can just eat up people on ball and then obviously help off ball as well. So that is the appeal of this lineup. I think that also this lineup, it protects Steph better because you have two rim protectors out of the front court. And eventually, if this lineup, you get away from Kuminga and you throw Pajemski, Moody, Buddy Hield, whoever you want in, maybe not quite as good a defender at that 2 spot, they're still protected by your 2 rim protectors behind you. So I like the idea here. We'll just have to find the combination of wings that works best. In order for this lineup to actually work, what you have to do, it's going to have to be Wiggins attacking and playmaking, which is asking a lot. I know he's going to try to do it, but he's not a ball handler. He doesn't see the floor well. But if Wiggins is going to make a step in his game at all as a playmaker, off the dribble, maybe with TJD in the pick and roll, that could unlock a lot. And I guess the other option would be Jonathan Kuminga finding some spacing. It's him knocking down threes, which I think we know how he shoots. It didn't look good tonight. Maybe it's improved a little bit, but if he's going to shoot 37, 38% from three, that's a stretch. I don't know if I'm buying it. And other note is I'm curious to see Trace is an underrated passer. I'm curious what happens if you kind of play out of some split action for him there, out of the pick and roll as a roller, kind of making that short roll, quick decisions. He's a nice pass off the dribble off with his left, to a backdoor cutter. So if you can get a little bit of passing and playmaking from that center spot, now this lineup's a little bit more connected. But in reality, the only way this lineup's going to work is if Steph Curry is superhuman and does all the playmaking and probably most of the scoring. Okay, well, I would say let's just sit on this one. Let's enjoy it for the time being. Let's just have as much optimism and hope for the season as we're going to get. Things are looking beautiful. How does the team respond when the shot's not falling? We got a glimpse of it. And hopefully we can find other ways to hang our hats on defense and just kind of winning in the margins with effort. We go to a little bit of altitude, Salt Lake City on Friday. We should be nice and rested. Nobody played more than 25 minutes. So let's go give it to them. Let's show them why we don't need stinking Lowry Markkanen. Although, gosh, if we could have traded Kuminga and some picks for Markkanen, that looks pretty good now with all the depth that the Warriors have. And just kind of give me a stretch five. All right, we're not going to go down that rabbit hole. It was fun, guys. Enjoy it while it lasts. Hopefully it lasts the entire season and beyond, but very positive things to build on. Until next time after Friday's game, I'm Chris Chinn. This is Stack and Dubs. Peace, love, and Stack and Dubs.